Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Michigan Football Postgame Live Show. Michigan falling to Indiana in Bloomington by 5 points. Ready to talk about it with you. 17-3 at the half, so Michigan only gives up 3 points in the second half, and they put some points on the board and have an opportunity late in this game to drive the field and go down for a winning score. That doesn't happen. Michigan's record sits at 5-5. They head into a bye. They have to win against Northwestern, or they'll be in jeopardy of missing out on the bowl season and the 15 practices that you get if you are bowl eligible. So that's what's left for them here. But this game, couple things stand out to me. One is that this team can't put 4 quarters together. And if you're a good football team, you need 60 minutes. You have to be able to do that to be able to get to the finish line and win ball games. That's the first thing that I see. But coming in pretty close to that, and maybe it's taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, is that this is back-to-back games where there have been coaching follies by Chiron Moore and his staff, where you can lose games, you can have a bad season. There's lots of reasons. We'll go over some of them, if not all of them. But what you can't do is pull the gun out from your waistband and point it down to your foot and just start shooting. And that's what Michigan did again today. And the most obvious one was at the end of the game, the last drive that Indiana had to seal the game, where Michigan had 3 timeouts. Indiana gets a 7-8 yard run on first down, and you have to call timeout. I mean, there's a very little chance Michigan has to stop them. They got to use their 3 timeouts, but somehow 26, 27, 28, and then they put 2 seconds back on the clock. But even if you let like 3 seconds go off, you're like, hey, this is valuable time. We say a lot of times, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. That's terrible coaching. There's no real other way to put that. The other thing about Chiron Moore is he can't figure out what players to play. He couldn't do it in the first week of the season when he came out there and stood in front of everybody and said, no, well, we're going to still compete in the game week. That put him behind the 8 ball all season long, and it continued today. I don't know what. I thought Khalil Mullings was hurt. Or I thought maybe Michigan had a different angle of Khalil Mullings at the end of the Michigan State game. Maybe he really did connect with somebody with his foot, because it looked like he was suspended last week for the first quarter. I mean, he didn't play. I mean, I was curious. I don't know. Maybe he got hurt or whatever at the end of the game. And then he's not playing again today. Why? Why would that be the case? He could be banged up. Well, Jenny Dell, the sideline reporter, that was what she asked Chiron Moore coming out in the third quarter. And Chiron Moore, I'll paraphrase, I didn't write down exactly what she said, but it was basically that Benjamin Hall and Donovan Edwards had practiced better, and they were going to go with the hot hand. Chiron Moore has been asked about, what he liked about Alex Orji, before they even got out there. And say, have you seen Alex Orji, passing the ball down the field and making plays in practice? Have you seen that in fall camp? Did you see that in spring? And Moore was like, yeah. He's been asked additionally about that. Are these guys, when there was all the fumbles and the interceptions, are these guys making the plays in practice? And he's like, yeah. And they haven't been able to take it to the game. And yet, inside the game, here he is going with Khalil Mullings. They're The player that has played the best, besides Zavada this year, has been Khalil Mullings. People point, well, you didn't have a great yards per carry or a great last two games. Well, I don't know. He wasn't last game. He was benched or whatever. I didn't play good in practice. Maybe Chiron Moore should come out and say he's dealing with something, because if not, it makes it seem like he doesn't know what he's doing. Combined and wherever you're at, I'm not sitting here. I'm not arguing with anybody tonight. If you like a 2-quarterback system, if you think that sprinkling in Orgy at different times, wherever it's at on the field, if you think that's been a positive for Michigan and that's been good for them, well, have at it. That's good. You can feel that way. I happen to think it's the number one reason that this season has gone south. The indecisiveness with the quarterback, and then the continuation of a rookie head coach putting out quarterbacks that are pretty mid-range, if you're even going to give them that. But having these guys who have never played before have to look over their shoulder, jerking one of them out. A guy makes a play. Next thing you know, you're running Orgy out there. He's coughing it up today. The quarterback, the Orgy plan, the whole Orgy situation has been a disaster. That this staff, like, and Chiron Moore is not going anywhere. I know people, they're not removing him after 1 year. I doubt, even if it's a continuation next year, yeah, he'd be on the hot seat, but I don't think he would be removed after 2 years. Rich freaking Rodriguez got 3 years. So you could just settle in with that. But Chiron Moore doesn't have a great feel for his personnel and who he's putting out there. And for 2 consecutive games, he doesn't look like he knows how to manage a game. That was one of the things with last year when he came in his cameos and filling in for Harbaugh in the 3-4 games. Actually, he looked pretty good. I know the Monday through Friday, I guess Sunday through Friday, that's really important. Being a head coach, there's a lot of things that you got to do, but game day, managing a game, calling timeouts, challenges, knowing when you've got to get in there, work the officials, call that timeout. You got a guy lining over the center, and you're going to get a first down like last week, letting the clock tick down, whatever he was doing today. This is back-to-back games. It's a trend now that I don't say he looks lost, but he's making, I don't know, rookie mistakes. He looks like he doesn't have a grasp on being a head coach. One game, like last game, he can't figure out, the challenges. He's making bad challenges. I was there for he had bad explanation, and a very good explanation for the guy on the special teams lining over the center either. We're going to have to take a look at that. We'll see, things like that. So even though the team really fought hard, and you look over on the defensive side, and there's a lot of things to like and what they were able to do to put Michigan actually in a position to win this game. The play calling, Kirk Campbell, you watch him call plays. He doesn't give you a great, you don't feel really good about him having the feel for being able to call plays at this level. And I think part of it is the way they jerk around the quarterbacks. I also think it's, and you say it's predictable. Michigan's offense has been predictable. They're going to run it right up the middle, and they're going to keep doing that, but they're going to use running backs. I don't know why. I thought when Donovan Edwards was a true freshman that I understood why they were running him, because he wanted to prove that he could run between the tackles, but that they continue to do it when they have other backs, it makes zero sense. That they haven't tried him in different spots, different ways to get him the ball makes zero sense. Yeah, I know he throws the ball once in a while. That's cool. But they haven't used him. They haven't maximized his talent. Burying Khalil Mullins on the bench until the second half. He's going to tell us they keep everything in house. It's a suspension. I don't know that. And you don't know that either. He's hurt. We don't know that either. So what it looks like is that it's just bad coaching. If they want to be all secretive about it. And they've been secretive about it. It's either really poor coaching or really bad decisions on why not just come out and say what's going on. I know, Chiron Moore, all of the Michigan coaches, they love the secrecy and they love, keeping things close to the vest and not telling everybody because they're Michigan. And that's the way Bo did it. That's the way every other coach has done it. So why not Chiron have this adversarial relationship with the media and not tell them anything? Half the time, I wonder why the media shows up on Monday. They'll ask him a question about the quarterbacks, and, I get it. We'll see, he'll say. And then later on in his radio show, when he's sitting around with, with John Jansen, and then he'll tell Jansen a couple hours later. Feel like asking him the question like, Sharon, you'll probably answer this later on. Probably won't answer it now, but we got to ask anyways. It's almost like you have to table some of the questions like that. My big takeaway from this game is that, Michigan played hard. There's some signs there. They just don't have it offensively. Their offensive line, we could sit around talking the quarterbacks are not very good. Bless Davis Warren's heart. I don't know why they put Alex Orji out there. I've already been through that. But the offensive line isn't helping. They're a below average offensive line. So to expect to try to win some ball games, and this makes me think about recruiting and Bryce Underwood. If I'm Bryce Underwood and I'm watching Michigan, and as soon as the ball is snapped, you better get rid of it. You don't have much of an opportunity to do anything. Michigan needs to address their offensive line, and then they got to talk about the receivers in the future when they're talking about recruiting. And that, to me, seems like the biggest uphill battle when it comes to Underwood. Yeah, you could say we're opening up the offense, but yeah, we're also going to give you a whole new offensive line and a bunch of wide receivers. Because what you're seeing right now, everything has to be different. It'd be nice. Everything, if they had Colston Loveland coming back, utilizing the tight end, they do a good job with that. But what else do they do a good job with offensively? What else is Kirk Campbell doing a good job at? What else is Chiron Moore offensively, a former offensive line coach and play caller? What else are they doing well offensively? They can't pick the right players. They never figured out the right tackle. I don't know what was going on there. Link must have been tearing up everybody and not allowing a pressure or anything in practice, because when they put him out in the game, it was a total turnstile. Game after game after game after game. How many games did it take him to finally replace him? Then his replacement got hurt. What can you say about that? There's no defense for that. There's no defense for playing Link as long as they did. There's no defense for going into game week and not naming your starting quarterback. There's no defense for not calling a timeout. There's no defense for not knowing the rules about challenging. There's no defense as a head coach when your guy's lined up over the center with not calling a timeout. Shame on all of his coaches up in the booth that are supposed to be. That's supposed to be their job. But ultimately, it comes back to the big guy. And that's Chiron Moore. And he's had poor back-to-back games that makes you wonder if he's ever going to be able to put it together. They look like a really poorly run outfit. That's a very discouraging thing if you're a Michigan fan. Sure, pin all your hopes, and I'm doing the same thing now. I'm pinning my hopes on a Hail Mary for Bryce Underwood. And then a new year and a new attitude and a rebuild offensive line and a bunch of playmakers that Underwood could throw to. Will they deploy them in the right way? What about the running backs? If I'm Underwood, I'm asking about what's going on with you guys in the running backs? What's Mullings done wrong where he can't get in there? Why do you guys run Edwards up the middle so much? Why do you guys always run on 3rd and long? Who's responsible for the challenges? Who's responsible for the timeouts? What's the mechanism? What is the procedures? What's your protocols? Are you guys following it? Do you need to scrap it and go back? Those are hard questions that the answer of at this point of the season of, we'll see, or, we're looking at that. Nobody's buying that. They'll get a couple days off. They'll get back and work hard and practice. They got to beat Northwestern. If Northwestern's become a must-win game, that's just the position that they're in. I'm not feeling a lot of steam and juice about Michigan heading down to Columbus in a couple weeks. In the game. If Michigan had a clean game today, look, if they lost by 5 points and you didn't have the questions with, there's always questions when you lose, this play calls, this, but if you didn't have the hiccups, you say, hey, you got beat by a better team, and there you go. But that's not how it feels right now. It doesn't even feel like going down, and look, Michigan had their shot in a 2-point game in the 4th quarter. Barham gets a sack. Michigan's defense is doing great. They haven't given up any points. I don't think they gave up any positive yardage in the 4th quarter. They're in tremendous field position. They get the Mullings TD. They decide to play him. But then they come out and run the ball a couple times, and Davis Warren misses Kendrick Bell. I don't know to say that was the ball game, but that was a gigantic play in the game. I mean, right there, clean pocket, the ability to throw him, he can't hit him. You got to be able to hit that receiver there. A lot of times you say, hey, receiver's got to make a play. He couldn't make a play there. But then they follow that up with a short punt. Indiana gets it on the Michigan 38, but big defense again. And then Indiana with a big drop. They're only able to go 16 yards. They kick a 41-yard field goal, but then no line protection for Warren for a couple plays, and then O'Leary is short. Got to throw the ball to the sticks. I mean, you're thinking O'Leary's going to be able to snake his way? I mean, what kind of playmaker? I don't know. I didn't like that play either. But then, to end it up, letting 26 seconds click off the time, you're conceding the game. What's going on there? I don't know. I'm sure he's got an answer for that. Oh, what? Well, I don't know. What could be the answer? We screwed it up. Just like last week. That's the problem. There's no, well, we thought we were going to do this, and we had the clock. The best answer is we kicked it. We screwed it up, and it's on me, and I own it. And, well, what does that mean? It means that you put yourself in a situation now 2 weeks in a row where you're doing inexplicable things. Yeah. Nobody's talking about firing you after year one, but everybody's like, I kind of wish you could get a redo. When there's coaching like that out there, that's just the bottom line. It's too bad. You can't fire the coach, but nobody's sitting around saying, oh, this is what you really can't wait to, go running into the off season. An important off season, we're inside a month. Now Michigan's, got all these big bags and everything, but these recruits, what are they going to do when they start asking questions? Is he going to have the answers? And coach, why did you call a timeout? Coach, why didn't you call timeout last week? You know all the rules. How do you get on the field? They have to look at the way they practice. Guys are making, great plays in practice and doing all these great things in practice. Like, hey, let's go with this guy. And then they get out there and they can't produce in the game. And then the guys that produce in the game, but I don't know, whatever they're doing, they don't have the hot hand in practice. So then they go to like third string. And the one that, and it gets back to the whole thing from where we started. This staff thought that Alex Orji could be a starting quarterback in the Big Ten. And with what we have seen, he's not even close to that. I'm having a hard time putting it together how these super smart, young, these guys, they got everything. Well, they're, these guys know it all. And they're looking over there at Orji and they're like, yeah, we really like the position that we're in with him. I don't know what else. I'm going to look at some of the feedback here. If you have any points. Again, what I know is that when I'm kind of flabbergasted and then I try to take a look at what I see here from the people are even more pointed and are going after him more than me. But let's try. Tyler says Chiron Moore wasn't ready and it's time to start questioning his ability to lead the team. I agree. A-Train, 0 offensive production. Defense isn't bad, though, holding a high-scoring offense to just 20 points. Yeah, the defense, I don't know, are we giving out, we're in a spot here. I guess it kind of feels like it. It's not a moral victory for the defense. The defense did a nice job. Oh, O'Rourke, I call him O'Rourke. Rourke, that dude, let's just see here. Not their first series, but that first touchdown, he looked like a pro. I mean, he looked like Dan Marino on the 2 of his first 3 drives. They didn't score on their first one, but his 7-yard touchdown, 7 yards, 75, 7 plays, 75 yards, 7-yard touchdown to open up the touchdown scoring. And then he just continued on that, the third drive. 7 plays, 65 yards, the 36-yard touchdown pass. I mean, the guy looked like Dan Marino. And then Michigan essentially shut him down. You got to give it to him. Yeah, well, these are the kind of things that people say. There's nothing you can do about that. Yeah, well, maybe it's not the time to go to the feedback. Poor coaching, especially towards the end of the game. I agree. Old BN is here. We see him a lot. He's talking about firing Chiron at this point. Terrible time management. Idiotic challenges are inexcusable. Yeah, I don't think they're firing him. They're not. I would, you got to give a guy an off season. You might say, why? And I get that. I mean, I understand it, especially right after a game. I don't know. It's not making me feel like very confident. FJ wants to go to Brian Greasy and make him the OC. Elston needs to be hired away from the Chargers. Make him the DC. Yeah, those don't sound bad to me. I'm not sitting over here saying, "Oh no, don't do that." Sounds all right to me. UM said if we had any sort of offense, we win this game. Yeah. John, not happy with the coaching. This has been a kind of a theme here. JB talking about these guys don't have the player's best interest. And the defense did a good job. That's it. I don't, it's right after a game talking about everybody should transfer and sit out. I think that's just how it happens. Fire Moore and bring in Indiana's coach, drop a bag on Indiana's coach. Yeah, the thing is that when you hire a coach, you've got to give him a couple of years. But it has gone terribly for Chiron Moore. What I've seen is on the field, and from a coaching standpoint, and the way the team is run, and the personnel that he chooses, he's been very bad. Very bad. He's been bad at that. It's been a disaster. What I found that people, once the games are over and you start looking at some recruiting rankings and you start looking at the recruiting and you start thinking about, Michigan's now armed with NIL bags and they can go out there and attack the portal and recruiting. That gets people excited. The part, though, that, and I don't want to see the thing to me is like, I don't like to spoil anybody's fun. To me, the chase with Bryce Underwood, if you're a Michigan fan, it's pretty hard not to just like jump in and just say, yep, they've put all their eggs in their basket. They're going after him. So you just hope that they get him and kind of enjoy the chase. But you do wonder what these recruits and these parents, these guys aren't all dummies when they're starting to take a look at the team and they're just like, what's going on here with you guys handling the game? That hurts. Chiron Moore is a good recruiter up to this point. But now when the guys start asking the tough questions, I'm not really sure what his answer is going to be. There's no real, so when you say there's a fall guy, like there's one person, Moore's responsible for all of it. Moore has to make tough decisions, and so far he has not made. It was a tough decision with those quarterbacks heading into the season to tell one of them, look, we put you through the paces. It's very close, but we're going with Davis Warren. And that first Monday of game week, that's what he should have said. Tough decision. It was close, but this is the guy we're going with. Instead, he danced around it. Tried to pacify both of them. And then he went into the game against Fresno State, was rotating guys in and out like he thought it was Harbaugh for the last 2 years, like they had a bunch of easy games. But they had Texas the next week with an inexperienced coach, inexperienced quarterback, a totally inexperienced offensive line, new coordinators, bunch of new coaches. What? It hasn't been all downhill since then, but they haven't put together. I mean, it's not like I was sitting after the Arkansas State game saying, it feels like they look really good. No, if Davis Warren threw 3 picks in that game and had to get benched, and they had no answer at quarterback. They needed a miracle against USC. That win's not exactly aging great. Played good against Minnesota for a half. They brought in Tuttle and had 3 series where they looked good. And then they didn't. Illinois, they didn't look good. State sucks. Last week, they kind of hung in there. And then this one, the problem with these last 2 is that as this has gone on, you want to feel like the coaches have a grasp. You want to feel like Chiron Moore has a grasp on being a head coach. It's a very tough job. We all know that. That's why they get paid millions of dollars. And the top guys get, 10, 12, call it whatever it is. But you got to be cut out for it. And when you're watching Moore for the last two games, you wonder if he is cut out for it. You at least have to think that. It's not a fun thing to say, even if you're thinking it. But after a game, I think the different parts of your brain, I think your front brain is, you just want, you want a pound of flesh, blood. That's where it's at. So I think we're all in agreement. This has been worse than anybody could have imagined this season. It hasn't been because of injuries. The number one thing has been poor coaching from the start. Indecisiveness at the beginning. And then here at the end, it has been a series of bad judgment in real time by Chiron Moore, where the game looks too fast for him now, or he just doesn't have control of the game. Nothing is more important, even at a place like Michigan, almost especially at a place like Michigan. The head coach is everything. This CEO has to have his hands on everything. And he has to run it, and you almost have to be a madman. I guess, maybe why Harbaugh, I call Harbaugh a madman, but, he's fanatical in what he's doing and how he's able to run things. Most of these guys, when I watch, you watch these guys, that's the way they do it. And these last two games, the worst part about everything is that what has happened on the sideline with Chiron Moore the last two games. Yeah, losing isn't any fun. But when you have a coach who can't get the easy things right, you can't run a game, that's going to affect. What do you think other fan bases are saying? What do you think the other coaches are saying? You're going to go. That's where you want to go? Let's put on the tape. And for the last two games, and talk about some of the decisions that your coach has made. Can't make the tough calls. And that's it. So you got a bye week. Usually just automatically say, bye's coming at a good time. I don't know about that. This team's lost a couple games in a row. Their coach is, tripped up the last two games. Feel good about the defense. Some of the guys, hey, TJ Guy had a hell of a second half. Yeah, I agree with that. But what else? What else? Let me see if I can find something. What else? Nothing else is really jumping to the fore. The defense, they did a nice job. Warren didn't throw any interceptions. He dropped that ball. He missed him. Warren, it's like, he would be like a nice backup. Then at times, he throws some nice passes, but you were never winning a championship with Warren. Again, bless him. The running backs, 2.0 average today. Nothing else, Morris and Moore had some, and O'Leary. All those guys have a catch here or there. That's about it. Orgy, that stuck out in a bad way with him fumbling. Barham and Guy on the defense, those guys played well. Hillman, if this was Brandon Hillman, the defensive back for Michigan, he wears number 6. If this was 20 years ago, we'd be talking about, man, this kid, the way that he brings the wood and smacks people around and punishes guys, he is great. And he big hits, and it's nice. All of those hits. I mean, he was crushing guys and sending them out of the game. Was it just the 2 hits? But he's done it in some other games too. But it's so tough to do now, and he did a great job today by leading with his shoulder and staying away from the head and neck injury and knocking guys out. But it's an art being able to do that. If he played in the 70s, I said 20 years ago, now I'm talking about 50 years ago. If he played in the 70s, you'd be like, this guy's going to be awesome. But I don't know. I don't know how much room there is for a knockout artist. I mean, he can do some other things too, but once in a while, you got to feel like you're playing a little bit with fire there. But I like it. Who doesn't like a gigantic, clean hit? So that's where I'm at. I agree. I've been over that a million times, so I'm with you. JB's talking about his wife could have coached last year's roster to a victory. Let's see. Brandon says the OC needs to face the fact that this is not last year's team. Today, the O had more success throwing on first down. The offensive line is not the same. They need to match the personnel that they have. I think that's a nice bit of feedback. Let's see what Aaron says. If Warren threw the ball as well as he did last week, they probably win. He missed too many wide open receivers. Yeah, I would agree with that. There were just not enough. He didn't have the time, and when he did, a couple big throws, he's got to do a better job there. Calvin's upset about Samaj. John says Moore is in over his head. How am I supposed to say he's not? I don't know. That's the problem. That's where we're at. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to keep at it. We're over on the Maize and Blue Review. We'll be talking about this all night over on the Den all day tomorrow. And hey, guess what? Tomorrow, you got a basketball game at 1 o'clock. And the Lions, they don't play till tomorrow night. So Michigan basketball at 1, and then the Lions with a little Sunday night football. And then Michigan with a bye week, and they just have 2 games left. They need to get bowl eligible. Say what's left, that's it. And they have the game against Ohio State. And yeah, you don't want to be called like, oh, you guys just won a national championship and now you're acting like you're not even excited for the Ohio State game. It's up to the team to go out there and get you excited for the games. It's up for the coaching staff to put their players in the right position. So you want to get out there and you want to watch the team and get excited about them. The days where people just roll up and they're excited automatically because they went to Michigan or they just love Michigan. That's not what new age fandom is like. There's way too many other things to do. Even if, Michigan football is your life and you love it and it's at the very top, you're not going to take too many more games like this week and last week and this season. It's just there's only going to be a few, and they'll be the older people that are just like, I got a badge of honor. I don't care if they only win, 5 games a year. I'll still be there. Well, that's not the way the future is going to be. Too many other things going on, competing for the entertainment dollar. And I think if you're over 30, probably over 40, you're probably hooked. It doesn't matter. They've got you for another 40, 50 years. It probably doesn't matter. Not going to matter to me. I'll still be there. But oh, I don't know. I'm getting to it. Now I am just rambling. Everybody have a great night. Michigan loses this one 20-15. They fall to 5-5 on the year. Indiana's 10-0. And they're going to play the Buckeyes in their next game. So there you go. At Ohio State. That'll be one to watch. I'll talk with you tomorrow after the Michigan basketball game, and I'll see you on Monday on Good Afternoon Michigan Football. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. In between all of that, right now. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you